Welcome back to another episode of NFT Catcher Podcast. We'd like to remind everybody that nothing on the show is meant as financial advice, and to please do your own research. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Now the subject is NFTs.
They're known as non-fungible tokens, or NFTs.
NFTs are exploding in popularity.
This is a technology that will forever change the way people interact.
So it is happening whether you understand it and like it or not.
This phenomenon is moving. The digital.
You have now joined Jenny from the Blockchain and Michael Keene on the NFT Catcher Podcast.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the NFT Catcher Podcast with me, Jenny from the Blockchain, and my co-host, Michael Keene. Before we get into our special guest, by the way, I just want to quickly say shout out to everybody who showed up to our live Q&A episode that we recorded over Twitter Spaces last Sunday. Thank you all so much for joining, and hopefully those of you who listened to the replay really enjoyed that. We're looking forward to doing a couple more of those Q&As in the future as well. Michael, why don't you introduce us guests?
Our special guest, sure. We're here with an Emmy award-winning, famous in the NFT space, an amazing photographer, John Knopf. We're super happy to have you. I've been a fan for a long time, so this is super cool. We're happy to have you join us.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we can finally make this work.
Yeah, we tried for a little bit, and I know you have an important meeting tomorrow night and all that. Tonight is Tuesday night, March 8th, for anybody that's listening.
Yeah. Thanks for making that happen too. I know we had to do it early, so thank you.
Of course, man. And as I was looking at your website and doing research, I kind of put two and two together, and I realized we actually spent a bunch of time together in Aaron Haber's rooms on Clubhouse. And I kind of forgot about that, but he always had you up top of the rooms. Isn't that right? That was you, right? John Knopf?
Yeah. Those were the best rooms, man. Those were hilarious. I remember he said like the funniest shit to me one time. He said, "Are you ever going to finally like graduate from doing, photography to possibly motion pictures?" Yeah, he's great. I miss those rooms.
Yeah, for sure. The NFT Innovation Society. Aaron used to hold some great rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I remember that, and I was like, yeah, because he'd always say, John Knopf, the photographer, and I could tell you, I remember having respect for you then, and then you kind of hooked up with Rug Radio and Farouk, and you were getting in Twitter Spaces, and I started following you there, but I never put two and two together.
Oh, that's too funny, man. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
So how you doing? What's going on with you? Everything good?
Yeah, it's good. I'm like in the process of moving, so it's been like pretty chaotic. It's kind of nice to actually take like an hour break and just do this for a little bit.
Yeah, cool. That's what's up.
Yeah. So if you hear anything in the background or anything, there's construction going on there. They're putting in a water softener because we live in the desert.
Nice. Very nice. So let's kick it off. Let's talk about how you kind of what got you into NFTs. How did you learn about NFTs, and how did you know that it was something you wanted to do?
Yeah. So I got into crypto back in about 2011. Was mining for it and stuff like that, and playing like online poker with Bitcoin. And
2011. Wait. Sorry. What was the price of Bitcoin in 2011?
I think like a couple $100, like nothing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no. I got in 2011. I was mining for it, and I was running around at the time, South America, doing a lot of photography, and I kind of like transitioned over into NFTs in like 2019, I think, because I got into like virtual land up in like probably September of 2019. And then, and I was just kind of like getting into it. Like there wasn't much available. This could have been, let me think, what year is this? 2020. So, it was in 2020 when I got into the virtual land. And I had discovered Clubhouse back in like January of, I think, 2021, maybe. And I was slumming the hallways with my friends, and shout out to Troll Team 6, because we were basically trolling every room we could. This was back when like we were doing like the flat earth rooms and like just the Scientology rooms, and like we were the assholes in the space. And And I was drunk one night, and I think it was like January, and I stumbled in. I saw an NFT photography room, and I was like, I had heard about NFTs, and I had seen some like, I had already had some virtual land, but I didn't know like much about the art game of it. And I think I'd heard like Gary Vee talking about it in like a YouTube video or something. I was like, well, this is interesting that they're like doing photography. So I stumbled into this room, and bunch of people in there, like old school, like, there was like Ravi Vora and like Jeff Nicholas and Kath, and just a bunch of people were in there just like vibing and talking. And we were like talking on stage, and they invited me up, and we just started vibing. And I think it was Blau who came in and started buying a bunch of photography. And I was like, oh, this is dope. I'm like, there's some money in this. Like, so my first experience was immediately Blau buying a bunch of photography and me thinking, this is the greatest cash grab ever. I'm going to make bank and like bail. And so I like dive in deep, and I realized like this isn't at all the cash grab that I thought it was going to be. This is straight up like a bunch of dope ass people creating a community to further the idea of the technology of the blockchain and what it can do for future generations and finance and art and science and all this shit. And I was like, this is exactly where I need to be. Like, these are all the people, because I was like, dive back a little bit before that. When the pandemic hit, I dived into stock trading because my galleries had shut down, and I had no choice but to kind of figure out like where to go and how to make money. And I knew the government wasn't going to support us. And I was like, well, with my galleries shutting down and I have literally no income, and now I'm in debt because of these galleries, I got to figure something out. So I started like learning online stock trading, which it wasn't really made for me, because as soon as you do the research, you found out that the hedge funds completely, screwed everything up and like would, like just go in there and like, tamper with stuff and like manipulate, numbers. And it never worked. Like, no matter how much research you did, someone would come in there, the news. So like, this sucks. And I found like crypto again, and I would already kind of like crypto native. Now, mind you, I didn't have any Bitcoin left or anything. So it was kind of like just diving back in brand new. And so when I found it, I was like, this is something that like is really, like game changing, I feel like, but I didn't know enough about NFTs. So I was starting to kind of like stack some, actually it wasn't even ETH, it was Solana at the time, and Axie. And I was doing this back like a year ago. And then I found NFTs in this, like what, about a year ago at the same time. So I dive into NFTs going, all right, well, there's something to this that could really like, change the game for me with art and everything like that. But again, it wasn't the cash grab I thought it was. It was all about like this crazy, just dope community and just cool ass people. So I started vibing with everybody, going into rooms, hosting my own rooms, doing photography. And what I found was that like there was a lot of like naysayers, and just like a lot of people who were saying like photography would never like make it on the blockchain, and that, nothing would ever going to be like, no art was ever going to like sell that was photography. And people were like minting their work for like 0.1, 0.2 ETH. And there was like a point, I think, where we were like, dude, we're going to be like the 1 ETH club, where like we mint our work, at 1 ETH or above. And this was like legit, like me, Kath, like Ravi, like this is what we were talking about back then. And I minted my first piece, and I was like, I'm going to mint it for like 5 ETH. And like, just to backtrack, like it wasn't about like that I was like Emmy nominated, or that I had, a shitty following on Instagram, or that I had galleries or anything like that. It was just a matter of like, I put my life and soul into my portfolio, and like, traveling the world, and like literally blood, like, sweat, tears on all of these images. These are selling my memories. So I was like, I'm not just going to give 101s away for cheap. So I started at like 5 ETH, and I got a lot of heat, and like people were coming at me just going like, dude, you've overpriced your work. You've completely, outpriced all the artists and collectors, and like you're doing no justice to photography or the NFT space. Like, I was getting major heat. And so I think at that moment, I raised my prices again, just to kind of like prove a point and just be like, look, like
Nice.
I'm not gonna like be told by collectors or other artists like, you guys aren't gonna dictate my prices. And I've been fighting that battle since, I got into photography. So it was like, the last thing I'm gonna do is bring that same bullshit into the NFT space. So I immediately raised my prices, and continuously do as my shit doesn't sell, because it just feels that's the way I kind of want to, that's the way I just want to be perceived, as somebody who values their work. And also, like, I wanted to make a brand that I just wanted to establish that like I've worked really hard for what I've created, and I'm not going to let it go for anything less than what I love. And I don't want to have any regrets at the end of the day when I'm selling a piece. So it was just a matter of like going down that road. And it wasn't easy, because again, like there was a lot of heat, but I think that opened up like the whole idea of me being able to be more authentic, me really discovering like my voice and like who I really was, like over the year of like talking on Clubhouse and doing all these spaces, like I really found my like what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. And it took a year of literally like jumping on these stages. And I remember like in the beginning just like shaking, like, like stuttering and like not being able to talk. And I still get like those nerves and stuff like that. But it was like, it really helped me, like as talking through it to people and like answering questions, it really kind of helped me discover like what my value was and what I wanted to stand for in the space and how I wanted to navigate it. Sorry, that was kind of like a long-winded answer, but that's how I got
Man. It's really interesting. And we were actually going to talk about this a little later, but like we don't have to talk about it right now. But it kind of that goes back a little bit to I was reading your back and forth today about Friends with You, and I really like the things you were saying about don't tell an artist what to charge for their art. The answer is if you don't like it, don't buy it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like from my early gallery days, so when I got into photography 15 years ago, I was rejected by every gallery to where they said my work would never sell for over $500 because that's just photography. Like that's just the life of a photographer. And that was at the moment where I was like, well, like I'm not going to use any galleries to sell my work. Then if they don't appreciate what I put into this and they think that, a painting is worth more, then by all means, I'm going to create my own galleries. And that was why I lived out of my car, like making my own, capital so I could open a gallery one day and sell my work for what I believed it was worth.
Yeah.
So like when I see what's happening, like with Friends with You or like what's happening in the space, it's like, are we really going back to a year ago where we're going to start telling artists what to value their art in? And I know like it's a 10,000 piece drop and I know it has a roadmap, but I don't give a shit because it's a matter of fact that he's an artist. And it's like, so if I release 10,000 photos and I give a roadmap that says, look, one day you guys are going to be able to like go into my metaverse full of my photos. You guys are going to be able to tell me what to price my art at all of a sudden because I did 10,000. Like, where do we draw the line on quantity? It's just the whole like argument on what's going on in the space. It's like, when did we lose? And Guy Zalexy said it so well today. Like, when did we lose our ability to have fun? Like, it used to be so much fun, and now we're scrutinizing every single project. And a year ago, it was like I thought we got over this shit where it was like no one's going to tell artists what to do, but now we're like back at that again, it seems.
That's an interesting thing that you kind of bring up there, which is like, a lot of the times people want to be able, it's like, yeah, you want to feel like, first of all, I can do whatever I want. Like I can price my things at whatever I want. But then all of a sudden, the market comes around, all these people coming in, giving their opinions like, well, you shouldn't price it for this because of this and that. And it's like, and then people are trying to protect other people, and not to bring Tel Lopez into another episode, but but like people were giving him mad shit for selling his 101s for high prices when it was like, well, what does that matter to you if you're not buying it? Like you
Right.
either want it or you don't.
And at the end of the conversation, like I think I kind of summed it up, was just like, look, why are we so like this whole room? Like, why is everyone so mad that the guy is trying to sell his work for 4.2 ETH? Like, is it the matter of that you guys just can't make any money on it? Is it the matter of that you won't be able to flip it at the end of the day? And if that's the case, then we are all just here for the money. And then what are we doing here? Because then I'm just wasting my time. If that's the case, like I thought we were here, we can make flips. There are projects that you can make money in, but there are also artists that want to define and dictate their own prices. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think anybody has the right to say like that a PFP project isn't art. Like if you're going to tell me that the cryptodes aren't art, I have to say, go fuck yourself. That's the only thing I can think of, because it's like nobody in this space can tell somebody that their work isn't art. I don't care if it's dick butts. It's art because you created it. And if you want it to be art, it's art. That's just all there is to it. And people are like, well, it's an overused word. Maybe. But no one in the space has the ability to define what is art. None of us. And the thing is like when you look at the entire crypto space, like I'm not trying to bag on whales, but the thing is like we're idolizing and coveting like these incredible people who have saved a bunch of Ethereum. They're not art critics. Most of them aren't even art collectors. In fact, 99% of them aren't art collectors. They're crypto wealthy. And by all means, thank you for everything you guys are doing for the space and moving NFTs forward and moving art forward. But in no way, like, should we be idolizing these people to where they are dictating what we do and how we maneuver and navigate. Like this goes back all the way to the early era of like art, the Medici days and all of this, like, where they were dictating and they chose the artists and they were the ones that sponsored them and they were the ability to dictate all of their prices and how their value was chosen. And I think like moving forward, if we're trying to actually create an open, decentralized space and democratize it so that everybody can have an equal seat at the table, then we have no right to tell artists how to define their prices.
I like that.
Yeah, the decentralized aspect of that. Yeah, like you're setting, just because maybe the standard is 0.08 for a project and whatever, and maybe if you don't have much of a presence and you price something super high, it's going to be really hard to sell, and so it might benefit you better if you made it a lot more affordable. But if you feel like you want to have a luxury, you're like going for that luxury high price stuff, then then that's kind of what you're choosing.
100%. And it's like, you look at the Bored Apes, right? You minted them for 0.08 ETH. And I hate to say it, but like, did anybody actually buy the apes for the art? I don't think so. Nobody bought the apes for the art. They bought the apes because they vibed with them, because they were dope, because they were just badass. And we were just like, look, these are dope PFPs. We're going to mob around on apes, like, and go into different rooms and make ape sounds and have fun. Like, that's what we wanted to create, was just like this whole vibe of just like having fun. It was never like, the apes were never about the art, in my opinion. Like, and I can guarantee like most of the people that got into the apes, it wasn't about the art. It was just, they were dope and we vibed with it. And like, I think there's something to say about that, because it's like there are projects that you can buy and just be like, look, I vibe with this. I'll probably flip it later so that I can buy my friend's art, or so that I can look at someone like Friends With You and go, well, dude, this guy sells real art in the real world. There's nothing goes under like $50,000 and he's selling these NFTs. I might want to get in on this because this is like some entry level shit at 4 ETH. And that's why I would look at it like that.
It's not, and it's 4 ETH, but it's a Dutch auction. So if people don't buy it, they expect the price to come down.
100%.
Yeah, Gary Vee did a Dutch auction on his drop, started at 3, went down to half an ETH,
The Mutant Ape did it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Mutant Apes did it well, but nobody scrutinized the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And it's the same thing that you're hearing over and over, which is like, well, I really vibe with them and I just wish I could, have gotten into their project and they could have made it more affordable. And it's like, well, dude, I really vibe with Rolex, but I can't afford it. And they're not going to make me an entry-level Rolex because I'm like, yo, guys, I'm really active in the community and I vibe with your project and you're only making 10,000. You think you guys could like lower the price because I vibe with Rolex? They're going to be like, no, go fuck yourself.
But an entry level Rolex though.
Right? Like, can I get that entry level, Hublot? Because I just really vibe with those watches. And they're going to be like, what?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. This whole conversation reminds me, I talk about a lot. I was a ticket broker as a profession for about 17 years before getting into NFTs. And there were a lot of times all the brokers would be complaining, Taylor Swift would do a couple tours and then all of a sudden she's charging $300 for lowers. And I would always say, then we just don't have to buy it. Like, they charge what they want to charge. They make the rules and it's up to us to decide, if we like it, if we want to buy it, if it's worth it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like the market doesn't dictate price. Like, I love that people think that, but that's not how supply and demand works. Supply and demand works is that the artist is going to dictate their own price. And the demand is either going to be there or it's not. And then there going to be a market or there's not going to be a market. That's just how it works. It's like the market can pretend it dictates the price all at once, but at the end of the day, the product is the one that dictates the art. It's the one that dictates everything, the price, everything. So it's like, don't come at an artist and tell them they can't price their art because you can't make any money off it. That's just ridiculous.
Well, you also have to realize that there's also going to be backlash. Like, that's normal too. And especially if like, we want this place to be decentralized, and people are going to voice their opinions. People are going to, it's going to be, you kind of can't control that. People are going to have that mob mentality. And, it's always like that. It's always like that as well. And I think, you probably know, as someone who's grown a following in the space, it's like, as you get bigger, it's inevitable for you to start getting haters and to start getting, people going against, what you're saying and things like that. So it's kind of like, it makes sense.
I quit Twitter for like a whole week because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It got
good for you.
hard,
It's
dude.
good to take off. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I said like GM one morning and I got canceled and I was like, all right, you know what? I think it's time to take a break. It's like it's not a good morning. It's like Russia's falling apart, Ukraine's falling apart. It's like I just wanted to say GM, guys.
Oh
Like I'm
man.
just trying to show some love, like in the space. Like I get it. Life
Yeah.
sucks, but we still gotta like, head up high. We gotta keep moving forward.
100%.
Yeah, no, I totally like I think like this space moving forward, the whole mob mentality, although like I understand like it is decentralized, it is, but everyone needs to remember like it's a two-way street. So when artists are starting to attack other artists because of their prices, I think they just need to remember like it really sucked when that collector climbed up into your DMs and told you that your art was overpriced and you should lower it. And I think we all need to remember how that felt before we start attacking other artists again.
For sure. And most of the people talking trash are anonymous. They just want to get it out there and nudge somebody or whatever it is. Like
Totally. No, they just want to create some shit. We see it all the time. But then you have like these shit influencers that have way too many followers. Yep. They just have way too many followers and have proved to be scam artists, yet they still stick around.
Yeah, we know. I know who you're talking about.
We all know who we're talking about.
Yeah. I saw you going at it. One of Jennifer's favorites.
Yep.
He'll
never stop.
Let's talk about Rug Radio, which is your show on Twitter. You and Farouk, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did you come up with the concept of Rug Radio and deciding to do these live NFT shows on Twitter?
Yeah. So Farouk and I became friends over Clubhouse, and we got into the apes early, and we became friends because of the apes. And like we just realized like we both had like the same ambitions to kind of just build community and build a space. And Farouk has like this just crazy energy, and like the dude is just an entertainer and he can kill it. And like I don't have the energy that Farouk has, but what I have to offer is like I'm this co-host that like we can kind of like go back and forth, and we vibe really well together. So like we were doing all these Twitter rooms together and like spaces, and like I was his co-host, he was his host, and like it was helping photography is like what I really like was noticing. It was like, dude, I'm able to grasp this audience now and like really promote photography, because in the early days of Clubhouse, like photographers just weren't getting on big stages. It just wasn't talked about. Like I legit was throwing on John Legere avatars to get up on big stages just so I could pump photography and talk about like, because they wouldn't know, like, back in the day, like it only says John, like it didn't say your last name. So you could put on his avatar and like they'd throw me up on stage and be like photography and like just pump it. And like, so moving forward, it was like working with Farouk, it was like, dude, this is an opportunity to really help artists. And like Farouk was all about it. And he was like, yo, like we could really build like, a company together, like a decentralized media company. And this all started from one space that we had done for like a 16-hour marathon in spaces. And someone said, yo, I wish I could stay with you guys and like vibe all night. I think he DM'd Farouk, but he's like, I can't because I got to go to my shit minimum wage job tomorrow. And Farouk was like, yo, that sucks. Like, how could we get people to like hang out with us and vibe and like get paid and, not have to go to their job? And we were all vibing and talking on stage and everything. And this was something that actually my friend Mel and I had been talking about like in the early days of Clubhouse about universal basic income and how it could be created through tokenization and decentralized DeFi. So like decentralized DeFi, I sound like an idiot, DeFi. So like, so like we were always talking about like, how could this move this forward and how could we do this? And when this, this opportunity kind of like positioned itself, I immediately thought of Mel, and I texted her and I was like, yo, Mel, I need you to jump into this spaces right now. Like you got to like start talking about tokenization and just like what we could do to create, a whole DAO and all this. Like she's just brilliant when it came to this stuff. And I was like, you got to jump in. So Mel, me and Farouk like jumped on a call. We started talking. We started figuring out like how this could work. And Mel kind of like laid out some of her IP and just some of her ideas that, she had already come up with. And Farouk and I were like, yo, this is where we want to move forward, like with a decentralized media space. And so it wasn't like it started out as shows, but then it was like, well, what could we do to help other people so that they could host and make money? And how could we help other artists make money? And how could this turn into something that could literally be an ecosystem that could travel throughout eternity of the blockchain and just continue? Like we wouldn't even need to do anything at some point. It'll just run itself. It's just like a self, like an autonomous like program that will literally just continue to create hosts and tokenization and make money for them. And so when we moved it forward and we were starting to talk to Mel, and we started talking, like we were on this stage and we were like, there's like Thank You X, and like all these people were just like, do you want to be the creative director? And like, Keith Grossman, do you want to be on the board? And like just all this fun shit. And it was just like literally like kids in high school just like having a blast and like making up these crazy ideas. And like I know like we all sat around back in the day and just would smoke weed and be like, yo, like how do we get to the moon? And like we would come up with these stupid ideas and like no one would ever actually follow through. But in Web3, it was like you have all these people available to fall through with these ideas, and like we could create a team. And so we just literally started outsourcing and talking to everybody and just being like, look, if you want to be a part of this and like build with us, like you're going to be rewarded. And so we incentivized everyone to kind of like make it so that they could join us and like be a part of the whole decentralized media company. And that's when it transitioned into like the whole DAO concept and kind of like what we're doing now, which is basically creating the NFTs, which 70% goes into a DAO, which is going to open up so many opportunities to create community and create opportunities for artists. So it's like moving Rug Radio forward. It is like it is a web media show, but it's also like just so much more than that.
That's great. So I have 2 Genesis NFTs and I have 2 memberships. So congratulations on the huge success, by the way. Like having a 0.3 floor with 20,000 items and pushing 10,000 ETH volume, like that's really impressive. It's good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, just looking at the ideas of like NFTs, we just kind of like, we're like, look, if we're going to create a roadmap for this, like we consider ourselves an actual a project, a company. So we have like a fiduciary responsibility to make this work. And that's why 70% goes into the DAO.
Wow, that's really awesome. So what do you want people to know about the project? What should they expect? Like, why should they want to get on board?
I think like, with Rug Radio, the whole idea is like everybody has a seat at the table. Like it's opening the opportunity for artists to be able to host and create audiences that they never could before. Cause like there's a great example, which is like Richard, who's 15 years old, who's hosting photography spaces for, teenage boys and girls who are like photographers and like artists who would have never had a voice if it wasn't for him opening this Rug Radio space every week and like being able to, help them. Or Nyla, who's 13 years old, who has a show and is opening it for the kids on the blockchain. And every week she has her show and these kids come on stage and they talk and she like interviews people. And like, I think what's so important about this is like, this is what's giving everybody a seat at the table so that everyone has an opportunity to be heard, which is, in my opinion, the most important thing, which is giving people who are unheard voices. And so when I see and like look at the future of Rug Radio, I don't like look at it from like an investment standpoint of like, look, you guys are going to make a bunch of money. Like it's just, that's all speculation. And I'm never going to like push something for speculative, ideas like that. So what I see Rug Radio being is a decentralized media platform that's going to be able to give people an opportunity to be heard that never would be able to heard before. It's going to open up so many doorways, I feel like, for communities to be created and ideas to be created. And, we're going to be doing in real life events. We're going to be doing a lot of opportunities where you'll get to like actually like hang out in like real spaces and like actually get to meet everybody and vibe. But I think like the most important thing that we're going to be doing to like move the space forward is like the learn to earn program. Whereas like you're learning and you actually like earn tokens by just like sitting in spaces and learning from Mel to talk about DAOs. We're bringing in, Syndicate DAO, Ledger, all these big, Solana, like all these big, these companies that are educating the entire audience. Because I think like when you're handing over a DAO, which is basically like you're handing over your company to a bunch of degens, you want to educate the shit out of them as much as possible. And so we're just focusing on educating and moving the space forward. Because the one thing we noticed, at least that I noticed, was that there's just not enough education and people are so focused on like reducing reducing how hard it is to be able to, the barrier to entry to crypto. And like my focus is not reducing how hard it is, because it's like we're watching some of the smartest people in the space get jacked. Like we're literally watching them, lose their money through mental hacks. So it's like, if anything, it actually should be more complicated, the barrier to entry. So my focus is educating, and continuing to teach people how to actually navigate this space correctly and not get totally wrecked.
That is so great. And that just gave me an idea. I just wrote down, I'm like, we talk a lot about, recapping the NFT space and, highlighting, notable people in the space and whatnot. But yeah, educating, I definitely feel like I want to help educate newcomers in the space more, because there is just so much information to know. And it's like, you literally don't know what you don't know. And it's like, sometimes you don't even know what to ask or how to even figure out, what type of information you should be learning, because, it's a totally new world in Web3.
I couldn't agree more. And 9 out of 10 of my friends don't use cold storage. And that's scary because 9 out of my 10 friends are usually founders of projects and they should be using cold storage. And that scares the shit out of me. So it's like, these are people who are literally running the crypto space and they're not using cold storage and they're not protected. What does that tell us? It's just more education is so necessary, and not simplifying the barrier to entry, but almost even making it more complicated. And I know everyone's like, well, we got to bring in the masses. And the only way to bring in the masses is to simplify it. So it's not 15 clicks, it's 1 click. And it's like, the last thing you guys want right now is to bring in the masses. Like, you thought there was scams now? Shit. There was no scams on CompuServe and AOL 20 years ago. Nowadays, try and jump on an IP and not get scammed. That's how it works. So it's like, the more people you bring in, the more scams are going to be available. So the most important thing we need to be is educating. So when the masses actually do come in, not everyone's going to fall for the Nigerian print scam.
Okay, so quick question. What is the difference between a cold wallet versus a hot wallet? What is a hot wallet? Why did you say most people have it? Like, just for people wondering, and why is it good to have a cold wallet?
Yeah, sure. So I think what's important about having cold storage is it's basically like it's two-factor authentication. So without you actually clicking on that device, no one's really going to, without your seed phrase, they can't take anything from you. Unless you've signed some absurd contract or haven't really been watching what you're doing, it's a lot harder to get hacked. And I think like with a hot wallet, I'm not saying the hot wallets are easy hackable, because legitimately you got to be pretty fucking smart to be able to hack a hot wallet, and actually go through the motions of being able to get someone's ETH out of there. But for the mental hacks, for just climbing, getting someone into the Discord and just messing with their head, it happens so often. So with a hot wallet, it's a lot easier to take their ETH because it's just like 1 click on your computer and it's over. You could literally do a Zoom link and all of a sudden they're in your computer. There's so many ways with a hot wallet for them to, just take your money, as opposed to with a cold storage, which is like an actual ledger or a Trezor or a device that you actually have in your hand. You actually have to go through the physical clicking of this thing. The other option is they have your seed phrase. But if they don't have your seed phrase, then you actually have to click that device to be able to authorize any type of movement on your wallets.
Right, because if you have a cold wallet, then your seed phrase is generated offline. With a hot wallet, your seed phrase is generated online. So,
correct.
Yep, if your device is compromised, then that's not ideal. So
it's just a lot safer, to have an actual device in your hand. The whole idea, I think, of crypto is not really decentralization. It's self-sovereignty. It's financial independence. So when you're looking at that, it's well, then you're guarding your money. Everyone can literally go onto the blockchain and see that you have $1 million sitting on your coffee table, because that's basically what you have when you can look in someone's wallet and be like, all right, this is how much someone has. That being said, it's you need to be able to protect your money, and you need to have the education to understand how to protect your money from the government, from other people trying to steal it, from hackers. There are so many important things, but it's that's why I say the barrier to entry, it's it shouldn't be easier, because it's this is self-sovereignty. You are creating financial independence for yourself. You need to really understand how and what you're doing and how to do it.
Does that scare you at all? Thinking about how, you're connecting your wallet, to a site, and it's well, you could literally get scammed out of all of your NFTs, all of your.
It scared me so much.
And it's I don't know, sometimes I think about that, I'm just wait, how is this better, us connecting our wallet to sites versus just setting up a password and creating an account. I mean, it's easier because it's like you don't have to create a new password and everything for sites, and if you're just connecting your wallet. But at the same time, it's like, well, you don't have money or assets connected to a username and password, but you have like money and assets connected to your wallet.
Right. And like your money's FDIC insured when it's not crypto too.
Yeah. And I think about that sometimes and I'm just like, there has to be some type of, I don't know. I think things will evolve a bit in the future because that just seems a little bizarre. Like for that to be like the norm, or maybe it is just more education. I'm not really sure what the answer is, but that does kind of seem crazy if you think about like if that were to be mainstream for every single person.
No, totally. But it's like that's the idea of decentralization. It's like, that you're able to move money or do whatever you want without anybody overseeing. It's like I bought my house, right? And I wanted to wire them the money. I had to sit in the bank, and not like this is some, obligation or like poor me, but it's like I had to sit in the bank for 3 hours. I had to go through all this wiring process. I had to deal with like multiple representatives, and they're just like, this might get flagged for the amount, and then we'll have to deal with that. And it's like this nonstop bullshit. And it's like, dude, if I wanted to send Farouk $1 million right now, it's one click and it's done. And it's like that, although it's scary, it's like that's the benefits of decentralization, which is like there's no one telling me what I can or can't do. So it's like it is a bit scary that someone can steal it. And it's like, I mean, dude, it's the same thing of like what happened with my ape. The guy accidentally sent me 230 ETH. Those are the type of things that can just happen on accident. So it's like,
wait, what happened with your ETH or your ape? I've never heard that story.
Oh, you haven't heard this crazy story?
No.
Okay, so me and my girl were at the furniture store buying some furniture, and like I get this email from this dude who says, "Hey, I accidentally sent you 230 ETH. Can you please send it back and you can keep 10%?" And I'm like, What? I'm like, yo, wash trade, like what? Like this like super illegal shit going on here. So like I just like I didn't even know, like I didn't believe it at first, but then I opened my Ledger app and like I look and I'm like, oh my God, there's $1 million on my Ledger right now. I'm like, and I didn't have that before. I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like, all right, this email is legit. And so I immediately like I text my attorney and I'm like, yo, what do I do? And they're like super web too. And they're like, wait till Monday and like we'll figure this out. But like this is super sus. Like it's just they're just like, this is really bad. Like we got to figure out like, the next steps and all this shit. And like I couldn't sleep. And I'm like, you know what, dude? Fuck it. I'm gonna DM this guy. I found him on Twitter. I'm just gonna DM him. Like, what's the worst case scenario? Like it's gonna, like they're gonna, put me in jail. Like I just figured like there's no implications here. I'm just gonna do it. So I messaged him like, yo, dude. So you sent me 230 ETH and like I'm not gonna send it back until we figure out like why, because this doesn't make any sense, like how you could fuck this up this badly. And he kind of came up with like, he basically said like, dude, like I wanted to buy your ape. So I put a bid on it and I was pissed off that you weren't accepting my bid. So I decided to actually like get a hold of you and find you on Twitter. So I copied your ETH address and I had it saved in my clipboard. So when I wanted to cancel the bid and send it back to myself, I accidentally sent it to you. And I was like, oh my God, that's the dumbest shit ever. Yeah, I was like, dude, that's the dumbest shit ever. You just sent me $1 million. I'm like, well, like, luckily, dude. Yeah, I'm like, dude, luckily it's me. And like, I'm going to give you your money back. Like, I'm not going to just fuck you. Like, but you sent me 230 ETH. Like, what do you want for the ape? And he's like, well, I want it for 230 ETH. And I'm like, well, that's an insult. I'm like, that's not going to happen. So like, we negotiated back and forth and we ended up with like 347 ETH because it ended up being $1,420,000, which was like what number he wanted.
Damn, let's go. Congrats on that.
Yeah.
So like I sent him back, like he actually like he put in the bid and I was like, holy shit. Like I looked at my girl, I'm like, should I do it? And she's like, it's your ape. And I was like, are you fucking crazy?
It's 1.5 million, right?
You're like, no, not the monkey picture.
What ape was it? Was it gold or something? Why was it so special?
Everyone wanted this ape. Like you would go into the Discord and people would just go crazy. Like he was a space ape with laser eyes with a pipe that had a robot face and body. Like he was the shit. So it was not easy to part with. So like when I said it to her, I'm just like, yo, should I do it? And she's like, it's your ape. And I'm like, but it's a fucking like so much money. I'm like, I'm selling this thing. Like we're done. Like I actually immediately, like I called Keith Grossman, the president of Time Magazine. I'm like, dude, what do I do? I'm like, I'm like tripping. He's like, John, you fucking sell that ape. He's like, what did you say to me? He said, nobody ever got rich by selling too late. It's by selling too soon. Sell the ape. So I sold the ape. I was like, done, like gone. And then a week later, someone made actually another bid on one of my apes and sold that. Like I got rid of like all my apes that week immediately. And then Deepak came back, the guy who bought my my space ape, like a week later. It's like, yo, I want to buy the mutants for it too. So I ended up selling the mutants as well. It was like a whole thing. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
When was this?
Yeah, that wasn't too long ago. I actually remember now. I remember when that happened, maybe a month ago or whatever. Yeah, okay, a couple months ago.
It was at the end of December when he bought my ape, and then in January he bought my 2 mutants for I think, 250 ETH.
Wow, yeah. Congratulations. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's a trip. Yeah, it was crazy because like I mean I minted these apes with our wedding money. Like I took me and my girl's wedding money and we minted apes with them instead.
Amazing.
So now you get a more epic wedding.
Yeah, we actually decided to actually only do a $50 wedding and buy a house instead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so now you bought a house, right?
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. We did the drive-through Vegas wedding and we bought a house.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations.
That is awesome.
Did you buy any other like NFTs, like, or were you like, you know what, I need to actually take profits? Like,
no, the ape, I immediately sold that ETH at the end of the year, like all of that ETH, and then when I sold my pizza face ape, I flipped it into a punk. So now I actually have a crypto punk, which I always wanted in the first place.
Nice.
Yeah, so it worked out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good time to snag a punk. They're priced well.
Yeah, I got a purple haired punk, which I always wanted. Literally the purple haired punk that looks like me. And I was like, dude, this is like the ultimate trade right here. Like I traded in 2 apes for a house and a punk. Like that's perfect.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. I know you're also into the cool cats. What other projects are you digging on? What are like your favorite kind of projects out there?
I mean, we love the cats all day.
Yeah, for sure.
I will always love the cats, the robots.
So do we. All three of us are cool cats.
Oh hell yeah, yeah. The cats are my vibe. I've always loved the cats. The Robotos, Pablo Stanley. I fucking love Pablo Stanley. Like one of the most genuine, sincere, beautiful human beings on this planet. Love his project. What else is there? Oh, the Atom Bomb Squad. You can't go wrong with Bobby Hundreds. He's just and like we've met in person, and like I gotta say, like he is one of the most incredible people I've met. Just super nice, super genuine. Had a bunch of dinners together with him, and he's just like, I love his project, everything that he's doing for this space. He's a good dude. So I would say like those are like my 4 like main projects that I'm in, and then obviously I'm biased, but Rug Radio all day.
Rug Radio for sure. Doesn't Pablo Stanley has a new project coming out. Have you seen that? Humankind?
I have not, but I'm sure it's incredible.
Yeah, it's looking cool. It's like all black and white. It's called Humankind Art. It's art project by Pablo Stanley. It has not dropped yet. There's a Twitter for it, and also I've been kind of keeping tabs on that. Check it out.
I love that. And, I forgot to mention with Rug Radio, another thing that I think that we're doing that's so important is we're incubating projects and partnering with them. So, there's projects that not necessarily are like failing, but just, aren't performing the way they want, or like, they need some advice or help or consulting. Yeah. And it's like, well, we have the audience, we have the availability to, present you to our audience and, build up the DAO so that like the money actually goes towards the DAO and there's sales that go toward it. It's like, it's all transparent and it's open. It's like, and I feel like this is the way that we can help move the space forward and incubate all these projects that, need assistance and that like they need the guidance and the team to be able to deliver.
Yeah, there's a lot of projects that the teams are still working really hard. And they're, they sold out maybe many months ago, and there's just not a lot of eyes on them. Everybody's always looking for that new shiny thing, but I know a lot of teams that are working really, really hard still, with relatively low floors, and they're cranking away.
No,
that's really cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really cool. That's why I think like, these type of things are just so important to be able to help these type of projects out.
Yeah, no doubt. That's awesome.
Speaking of low floors, I have a question about the state of the market right now. Do you think we're about to go into a bear market? Is this a bear trap? What's the situation? Like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on NFT market right now?
So, it's so new and it's so volatile that nobody really knows where it's going. But if I were to, let's say like if you've done your research and you believe in the long term of what NFTs are going to do or a project is going to do, then how I always see it is, when others, are greedy, you should be fearful. And when everyone's fearful, you should be greedy. It's a old Warren Buffett saying. And it's like that really just kind of goes true to investing. It's like, what is the key to investing? Just buy when there's blood in the water. So right now, there's a lot of blood in the water. There's a lot of people scared. There's a lot of people worried. They're, basically letting their bags go for really cheap. So if I were someone who had, long-term goals on a project like the Cool Cats, for example, a lot of FUD in the air because of the fact that their game didn't get released on time. It's not going as well as they thought. They've even said they've taken on more than they should have. That right there is a buying opportunity for someone like me, because I look at that and go, well, I believe in Klon. I believe in the future of this project. I believe in their roadmap and what they've created. So if growing with a company means that you have to go through the ups and downs, then by all means, I'm going to buy when the down spirals are going. So right now, I look at it like a great time to buy. Now, I don't know, because there's no way to know the future of NFTs, but I think NFTs are the future. I believe the Ethereum blockchain is going to literally handle every transaction. And when I look at an NFT and the blockchain and how art is going to be used, distributed, traded, collectibles, we haven't even scratched the surface. So I think Seed Phrase said it best. I'm not going to be selling one NFT until we actually discover what the fuck NFTs are and what they're going to do for the world.
That's awesome. I agree with a lot of what you said there. I've actually been eyeing up the Cool Pets and talking to our Discord community about it a lot. It's about to dip under 1 ETH. It's like a really good buying opportunity.
I mean, I bought at the peak. I was buying those at 2.5 ETH. So it's like, I think I bought maybe 15 or 20 of them at 2.5 ETH.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just look at that and I go, look, that's an easy 2 to 3x flip. It's just going to take time. So as they dip down more,
eventually,
it's just like, just be buying more of those things. How I looked at it is like how I looked at Axie when it was like 15 cents. It was like, it's a no-brainer. It's like Axie is creating this incredible game that everybody's going to want to play. And so you just have to buy the FUD.
Right. I was going to say the cats are at 6.39 also. Yeah, that's a great. That. Yeah, that's a nice spot for sure.
Yeah, you have to change your emotions. That's the thing. It's like you have to be really, really excited when it's red, like be happy, and be kind of sad when it's green, because it's like when they hit 15 ETH, I was kind of getting down. I was like, fuck, dude. I was like, I really didn't want it to happen this fast. Like I was hoping, because it's like, that means that it's not like this organic, pump. It's like, it's just all of a sudden. So I like to see slow growth and things like that. So it's like at 6 ETH, fuck, I hope they go down to 5.
Yeah, really, man. That's yeah. We had Extreme Tom on about a month ago or so, and he was great. Really
that's awesome.
Impressive, and we're big fans.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna ask really quick. Okay, what if you bought some NFTs, okay, and now all of a sudden the value of it, it's like your Cool Pets, right? You bought them for 2.5 ETH. All of a sudden they're down below 1 ETH. And it's like, and maybe you don't even have that much capital, and you're like, you can't afford to buy the dip or whatever. Everyone say, oh, buy the dip. It's like, okay, well, I have no money. So what am I supposed to do? So what advice would you give, or maybe not advice, but maybe, what are some thoughts on if people are holding on to NFTs that they had paid much higher for, previously, and now it's like the floor price, if they were to sell it, it's a lot lower than they actually paid. What would be your advice to people?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask on this one, because I'm more of a risk taker. So I would say, like, if you don't have the liquidity to buy the dip, the other option is just hold and never take a loss. You don't take a loss until you sell. So it's like the Super Yetis for me. It's like, I'm not going to take a loss on those fucking things. There's just no way. It's like, there's just no way. I'm going to wait and I'll just be patient. And it's just, I think, look, almost everything that I've put money into, whether it be a stock or crypto or anything, I've found that if I sell too soon, it's like I always miss out. Like it always pumps. I always miss the pump. So it's like, instead, I just change those emotions around and just go, look, I just rather wait and not take a loss. And eventually it will come back. It's like, I invested in this really shitty stock, this OTC stock, like a year ago called PGAS. And it was like, it's oil company. But all of a sudden, oil's pumping right now. And I got to get out of that shit. And now I don't even have to worry about the loss. It's like,
Nice.
it's just, you just have to be patient and just wait for the right moment. So it's like, I would say that anybody who's lacking liquidity right now, I wouldn't sell for a loss unless you really have like lost faith in the project and just think it's completely going down the drain, which there are a lot of those projects right now in the space that there's just no way they're going to ever probably get back to where they were. Like, I bought a crypto to 21 ETH. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get out of that
Jeebus.
crypto. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, right?
Bless your soul. Bless your
I know.
soul.
I'm stuck with an $80,000 crypto, but I love him, and I bought it for the art. So I'm not going to sit there and bitch about it. Like, I love him. He's beautiful. He's literally, he goes to Bogwarts. He's a wizard. He's a magician. But the thing is, like, I'm going to hold that thing, and I'm not going to take a loss on it. And it just is what it is. And that's just kind of like how I have to look at it. And again, I'm an extremist, so like, I don't know if anyone should be taking my advice when it comes to investing, but it's like, if you lack liquidity, then just sit there and wait, and eventually it'll come back.
You know what? I am actually the same way. And I know I always see like people being like, oh, just you got to learn when to cut your losses. And I'm like, no, I refuse to sell anything at a loss. I shall hold everything forever. And like, you know, even if, you know, it's been a year and it's still at the same price and it's not, you know, I'm not up, like I will still hold it. Like, I feel you on that. I don't think it's super popular advice, but I do think that it's honestly solid advice because it's like, you know, also learning patience. Like I think a lot of people have really short attention spans and not many people have enough like mental discipline to be able to actually like hold on to something and, you know, not let go of it. If, you know, if it's not even like the right time, it's just like, yeah, people panic. Right. And so I think people should practice holding things, you know, why not?
Yeah, I did that early on. There was, so I did, I was doing Gutter Cat Gang early on and I minted 5 and I kind of sold them on the way up. I was early on. I was famous for selling everything. I've sold way too much stuff way too early, but like, and I saw that they were doing well, like, and I knew it was going to be good. So then I started trying to buy like some rarish ones, like some great skins. And I was buying them at like 2.5 and they started dipping down a little bit. And I got scared and I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm not going to like, you know, and obviously I should have held because now it's whatever it is, a 5.5
But you learn.
Yeah.
You learn.
Oh yeah, for sure. I learned a lot, you know, and I needed at that point, like early on, sometimes people, you need to kind of be in and out and build up.
You got to pay for
sure.
hand.
Yeah.
My friend Lindsay Burns, a photographer, she said it best. If you had,
I love Lindsay.
Yeah, I love Lindsay, but she always says, she's like, look, if you hadn't done it, it wouldn't be where it is. So you had to do this for it to be that position.
Right, for sure.
And I love that. I kind of stick by that because it was like I sold some apes early on for a couple ETH and like, but it's like Lindsay said, it's like if you hadn't done that, they might not be where they are right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so let's switch gears real quick. I know we don't have a ton of time left, but this has actually been really great, John. It's awesome talking to you. You mentioned we were talking about your photography earlier, and you talked about how you've traveled. I was looking at a lot of your photos. And you talk about how you traveled a lot to South America. I actually spent many, many months over the years, probably 6-8 months traveling South America. I was in Venezuela in 1999, literally the day Hugo Chavez was elected, believe it or not. Shit. I was like, wow. So I've Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, like all over. What kind of travels have you done down there? What are your like favorite places?
So my main spot was Grenada and Trinidad and those areas, and we actually traveled over to So when I say South America, it was mostly the Caribbean, but we traveled a bit to like Venezuela and like the northern area of that. But it was mostly like the Caribbean islands.
Okay.
Just going, going from there from like one island to the other. Like I just spent like months at a time, like you know, just chilling in these like islands and just like learning about the culture and like just vibing with the people. Like that's kind of like how I got a lot of my photography is just you know meeting people and like learning and like. My universal language is weed. I have used weed in every country, in like every like, you know, Native American tribe, like any land that I've ever wanted to get onto. Weed has always been the universal language of how I can talk to people. So like in Grenada, like that's just kind of like how I got along with everybody. And I was able to just kind of like navigate through the whole island and just kind of like meet all the people and party with them. And that's just how I've been able to take photos. It's like, I know this like sounds corny, but it's like, I have to capture it with my heart before I can capture it with my camera.
I like that. No, that's great. I'm like, I'm not any kind of professional photographer. I don't call myself an artist, but I have like 15,000 photos. I've traveled, I've been to almost 50 countries. That's my absolute passion. And I love taking photos. I've a lot of that I really like, but yeah, that's cool to hear. That's cool to hear how you do that.
I forget that I'm a photographer sometimes, but that's where I started. It's like I started by I wanted to travel the world and see, all the beautiful places. And I was like, well, I work at a car dealership. How can I do that? And I quit my job and decided to become a photographer full time.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Wow.
Thanks,
love
man.
to see it.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Took life by the horns.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was, living out of your car for a while, doing the homeless life, but it was like I was doing what I loved, so I was always successful because I was enjoying what I was doing.
Yep. Yeah, I was always jealous of the people when I was traveling around that were living in hostels and just never knew when they were going home. They were on the road for 6, 8, 10 months. Like
it was the shit.
It's the best.
I just never could care. Yeah, I just never cared about anything.
It's the best. It's the best.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. And honestly, traveling gives you the best perspective because you meet people from all over the world and you realize how similar we all are. Like it's hard to get that perspective staying at home all the time.
No, 100%. You can only get those experiences from seeing the world.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What else do we have on our list here? Do we have anything else?
In real life events, speaking of seeing the world, what are some events coming up that you're going to? Maybe you're attending, maybe you're speaking at. Let us know.
Yeah, I'm speaking at NFT NYC this year for photography. So it'll be a panel usually of photographers, and we just talk about like how photography has moved through the space and how to create a community of photographers. So I'm looking really forward to that because I get to hang out with Mel in person, who lives in Australia. So it's like I get to So whenever we get to vibe and hang out, I'm stoked.
Cool. I was in that little room last year at NFT NYC when you guys did Rug Radio Live with Farouk and Keith Grossman, Sarah Script. Jennifer and I are both friends with Sarah. That was a fun little, she's great. That was a fun little thing you guys had going on there.
It was so good. Like right after that Rug Radio session, I wanted to get out of there because I had just doing those these type of clubhouse rooms and stuff like that. You take a lot of energy, but there was a guy in the audience who was just, basically said that our radio had saved his life. And if it wasn't for us, he would have taken his life. And it took just a lot of out of us. So I immediately ran out of that room and just ran to the street and just needed to breathe. And I run into Neil Strauss, the New York Times bestselling author. And he's like, John. And I'm like, holy shit, Neil. He's like, let's go have lunch. And Sarah Script walks out and I'm like, Sarah, we're going to have lunch. And she's like, who are we going to have lunch with? And I'm like, this is Neil Strauss, New York's bestseller, New York Times bestseller. She's like, holy shit. She's like, let's go have lunch. And so we just had the best lunch ever. It was great.
It's amazing. It's such a small world in NFTs. He's the guy doing the book for Jenkins the Valet, right?
I don't know if he's doing Jing. I know he did he did that project with Lit where he released the very first book on the blockchain about disasters and stuff like that, which was amazing, but I haven't heard anything about that one.
I'm pretty sure he is. Think he's the one. Yep. Yeah. They're pleased to announce that Neil Strauss is writing the debut novel for Jenkins the Valet.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I love that. That's a project. I think that project is going to really stand the test of time and do some big things.
I agree 100%.
Yep.
A lot of things are just, too new and too unique, and it just has to take time for it to kind of for people to wrap their heads around it.
Yeah, and the projects we see now aren't necessarily what they're going to look like in 2 years, 3 years. They're gonna change. They're going to evolve. Amazon 100%. was selling books, and all of a sudden now they sell everything, and they Amazon Web Services and all that stuff. So these companies are going to be. That's why we always say, look at the team, because it's not just it's not just the original roadmap or just the original tokens. There's these whole things and who's building the project. And for sure, that's what
the team is so important. I couldn't agree more.
I think we might have had a rug there.
Oh.
I was just saying, people forget, Ethereum wasn't decentralized at first. Things take time to grow, and that's just a matter of the growth over the years.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Any last minute questions, Michael? Anything you can think of? Because I just wanted to say before we wrap this up as well, that it seems like you kind of just have so many opportunities coming your way. Like when you shared that story of like running out of the live rug radio, and then all of a sudden you run into Neil Strauss, and it's like, and I feel like the reoccurring theme that I've kind of noticed throughout this interview was you just kind of taking advantage of opportunities and kind of following your heart and doing what you love. And then, more good opportunities come your way. And I guess I just wanted to recognize that and mention that in the pod.
Thank you. Yeah, it's all about building. I mean, that's really kind of what it comes down to. It's like if we're in a bear market, then it's like, cool, great time to start building again. So I think at the end of the day, like just seize every opportunity you can.
Right.
Oh, man. John, this was an absolute pleasure hanging out and talking with you and hearing your perspective on everything. You're always honest and you're opinionated, and I really like it and appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on this. I've been wanting to do it, so I'm stoked that we're able to do this finally. And yeah, I just appreciate your guys' time. Like, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully everyone listening to this really enjoyed this episode. That's all for today. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. GM.
All right. Thank you, John.
See ya.
Catch you later, GM.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to the NFT Catcher podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something new about the exciting world of NFTs. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you really love what you're hearing, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite platform. If you want to stay up to date with the latest news and insights from the NFT space, be sure to follow us on all the socials at NFT Catcher Pod. You can follow Jennifer at Jennifer_pseudo and Michael at NFTicket. I'm your producer, Andy, and I'm at AJC254. Our theme song's by It's Just Los. We always appreciate your feedback and support, which helps us reach more people and bring you informative and engaging content about NFTs. We look forward to bringing you more great NFT content in future episodes. Thanks for listening. Peace.